right, guys, it's redemption time. You see, I ruined Thanksgiving. I ruined Thanksgiving because I was very hard-headed about making all my pumpkin pie and all my stuff, and I had to work, so I was doing it in between breaks and in between things, and I ruined pumpkin pie. So it was undercooked, and when it came time to cut into that pie, I kind of went, meh. It was so sad. I was like, meh. So it's redemption time. I have a can of pumpkin that is left over. I love Libby's pancake pumpkin. I love it. It's always good quality. So we're gonna fix the mistakes that we made. Now I'm not going to make a pumpkin pie. Absolutely not, because that would be mean. I mean, that would be really mean. Everyone told me they didn't want to eat it, so that's fine. Okay. So instead, we're gonna make a pumpkin roll because I refuse to let this fantastic can of pureed pumpkin go to waste. Now this is pure pumpkin. This is not pumpkin pie filling. Sometimes you can get pumpkin pie filling in these cans. That's not what this is. This is just regular pumpkin. And we're gonna make a pumpkin roll. So we're gonna start with 3 eggs. And I promise it's delicious. It's still kind of fallish. It's not quite cold, at least not in Miami. Everyone else has been dealing with some really gnarly weather, but here it's hot still. So I can get away with a little bit of pumpkin dessert. So I have 3 room temperature eggs that I'm cracking into a bowl. And I'm gonna show you what we're gonna do next. All right, so now we have 3 room temperature eggs. It's important for them to be room temperature because the rest of your ingredients are room temperature. And you wanna start with everybody kind of being the same temperature so it all works together. It bakes at the right temperature and at the right time. So we're just gonna scramble these up, whisk them up so that they're all homogeneous. See, when they're cold, that's a big secret most people don't know. When your eggs are super cold straight out of the fridge, they don't whisk up quite as well. That's where you have to sit there for a while because your eggs are not incorporating properly. So to this, we're gonna add 1 cup, I'm gonna do the 1/4 cup, 1 cup of sugar, just regular white granulated sugar, nothing fancy. I'm using a 1/4 cup measure to get into my mason jar here. 2, 3, and 4. I probably should get a bigger vessel for this, but I just love mason jars. Okay. Now we're gonna just whisk this together. You can do this in a stand mixer or use a hand mixer if you want, but honestly with this, it's just easy. Less stuff to dirty. You don't have to use any special ingredients or any special equipment. It's just a regular whisk. Okay, now that they're nice and foamy like this, see they're fluffy and perfect. What we're gonna do is measure out 2/3 of a cup of this pumpkin. So that's 1/3. And here's 2/3. We still have pumpkin left. I'm still gonna use more of that pumpkin. It will not go to waste. Now, I could have had that in the shelf for a while, but why? Next, I'm gonna use it instead of storing something for a long period of time on a shelf, because then the fresh stuff that comes out for next year's fall season is fresher than the one that I'm using. I don't want that. I want to use it as fresh as possible. So let's whisk in our pumpkin. And I'm going to set that aside. All right, guys, so now for our dry ingredients. We're going to measure. I have a 3/4 cup measure from Sur la Table. Love it. Not everybody has that, but it's just 3/4 of a cup of flour. And that's it. Set that down. We're going to need 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. Those are our leaveners. That's what's going to give it the fluff to the cake. A 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Now, traditionally, I use pink Himalayan salt for everything, but for baking, I try to use regular table salt. I just buy the the ones that don't have any iodine in them because I have a relative that is allergic to iodine, so I just prefer to stay away from it. And then we're going to add a teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice to that. Alrighty. We're just going to use the same whisk. Mix this up. Bring back the wet ingredients. And now we're going to add our dry to our wet. A lot of you are probably wondering, why did I go ahead and dirty a second bowl? I just want to make sure when I have my dry ingredients measured out that my baking powder and my baking soda are all well incorporated and distributed, and I don't have a big clump of it, which could happen if you add it directly to your wet ingredients, because then that's a nasty bite and you don't want to deal with that. So we're whisking, we're incorporating, making sure that everything's nice and well distributed. And then last but not least, a little splash of vanilla. Now I think I'm going to be making my vanilla soon because I am running low. No. But you'll see how easy it is to do. It's borderline effortless. Perfect. All right. So it's ready to go. Let's get our pan ready. All right, guys. So I have a baking sheet here. You need something with a little bit of a rim along the edges. Okay, you do not want a cookie sheet for this, or else all your batter will just kind of fall over. You don't want that. And you don't want to use something extremely deep like a 9x13. You need something that is kind of spread out like this, because we are going to end up rolling this and you don't want your cake layer to be too thick. So I'm just spraying it lightly with a little bit of my avocado oil spray. I buy this at Costco and I love this stuff. It's really good. It's a neutral flavored oil, so it's not like an olive oil that's going to impart flavor. Now, we're going to put a piece of parchment on here. You notice I'm cutting it a lot bigger than the actual pan is. Let me show you. As you can see, it's a lot bigger than the actual pan is because I want it to overlap. So when you push down in there, you want that extra little bit of parchment. That'll come in after when we're done baking. And just kind of do this and just kind of swirl it around a little bit, move it around, just to make sure that you don't have a clump of something dry at the bottom that hasn't been incorporated into the batter all the way. And then it's just pour it in. This is going to be extremely thin. You're going to say, oh no, it's not enough batter. It absolutely is enough batter. You want this to be very thin. Because again, it's like I said, you're going to roll this. See, it almost looks and feels like you didn't make enough, but you did. Have faith in yourself. We're fully capable people. Okay, so that's fairly evenly spread out. And we're going to pop it in the oven. So the oven's been preheated to 375 degrees. We're going to place it into the oven for 13 to 15 minutes. So you're going to want to check it at 13 minutes after you set a timer and see if it springs back and it's fluffy, you're good to go. You can take it out. If it doesn't, it still needs a couple more minutes. But we're gonna put it in, we're gonna set a timer for 13 minutes, and we're gonna check on it then. All right, so we just pulled this out of the oven a few minutes ago, and as you can see, it's nice and springy. It has baked. So now we're gonna roll the jelly roll. So I'm gonna set this off to the side here, pull this off slowly and gently. There's oil on the bottom, so I know I'm making a mess here on the stovetop. Make sure you guys can see everything right. Perfect. So as you can see, it's a very, very thin cake. Here, let me show you. As you can see, it's very, very thin. That's what you want. You want a little thin layer of cake. So we're gonna use this extra little bit of parchment. Put it right here, and then just carefully roll it up. And be very careful because this is hot. Just like that. There's your roll. So we're gonna set this back on the pan to let it cool. I'm gonna clean up my oily mess. And once it's completely cooled, we're gonna make our filling for it. So now that our pumpkin roll itself, like our cake, is set and it is nice and cool to the touch, let's make the frosting that goes in the middle. The filling, the frosting, whatever you wanna call it. I'm gonna show you guys how to do it. Super fast, super simple. All right, guys, so in this bowl, I have 1 stick of butter that is sort of room temperature. You can always throw it into the microwave for 30 seconds just to get it softer, but carefully because it could explode like it did to me once and make the giant mess of my microwave, but we got it clean. So we're gonna do that. 1 stick of butter and then 1 8-ounce block of cream cheese. That is all soft. You want everything to be soft and as close to room temperature as possible. And we're just gonna whisk this until they blend together. Okay. We're gonna zest an orange, about a teaspoon of orange zest. Now when you're zesting an orange, you wanna be very careful that you're not getting into the pith. You just want the colored portions. This is a blood orange, that's why it's got that beautiful dark color to it. But this is just gonna add a little citrusy brightness to this already very rich dessert. Okay, we're gonna add a small splash of vanilla extract, about a teaspoon's worth. If you're picky about the color of your icings, they sell a clear imitation vanilla. But I like the natural stuff. I don't care that it kind of tints my icing a little bit because that's gonna lighten up again once I add the powdered sugar to it. So for the powdered sugar, we're gonna add about 1.5 cups. That's 3/4 cup. And I'm gonna add that in slowly. You could measure it all out, but it takes a little while to kind of get it going. And like this, see, I can incorporate it, make sure I don't have any lumps or clumps in there. Creamy and dreamy, that is what we're going for here, guys. Creamy and dreamy. Okay. Sorry about that. I just realized I had my arm just flailing across. 2 and 3. All right. Just carefully and slowly so we're not making a giant powdery mess in the kitchen. That's incorporated. Let's grab a spoon and give it a taste. Oh my God. Oh, that's amazing. Not too sweet. Perfect. Let's go on to the next step. All right, guys, so I have a clean cookie sheet here. There's no oil on this one. And what we're gonna do here is ever so carefully, this is our pumpkin roll, unroll it. Start on one end and go unrolling it very carefully, trying very hard for it not to break. Okay, and that's our roll. It looks a little funky. Let me clean this up just so it's out of the way. Wash my hands. It's all gonna come together. So, here's where it gets good and delicious. We're gonna take our filling, icing, whatever you wanna call it, and we're gonna pour some in here. I'm reserving a little bit just in case I need to fill in a certain spot, or maybe it's too much. It's never too much, but you know, just in case. See, it's never enough. All right. Now you're gonna wanna take this as close to the edge as possible, but always leave a little lip. Spread it out evenly. There's very little left, so let's just put it all in there. Okay, and now here's where the magic happens. Because you've already rolled this up in the parchment and you've had it cool off like that, it will continue to do the exact same motion. See here? Pick up the corner. And that's our pumpkin roll. Now all we're gonna do is let this guy sit. Got a little extra icing oozing out, that's okay. So we're gonna let him sit right here off to the side real quick. I'm gonna grab some plastic wrap and we're gonna finish that off so that it can go into the fridge and it can rest for a couple of hours. All right, you guys, I'm gonna be super honest with you. I got excited that everybody was, you know, here with me in the kitchen and I forgot to add my walnuts. Let's see if I can save this guy. I'm telling you, batting zeros lately. Let's see. Maybe we won't add them all the way through. So I have half a cup of chopped walnuts here. I buy these at the store and they're tasty and delicious. They add a little crunch. Let's just sprinkle them a little bit through here as much as possible. See, it's a real kitchen here, guys. It's not perfect. At least you know I'm not lying to you. Okay, let's do this one more roll. I feel so bad. It'll be okay. At least it's not wasted and it turned out to be okay. Okay. Hands washed. Forgotten walnuts off to the side. Let us wrap the roll. So this is going to help keep it taut. To very carefully lift in place, right there on the plastic wrap. I keep washing my hands because I hate to get like that little bit of stickiness onto things. So you're gonna want to roll this up tightly. as tight as you possibly can, but without all the filling oozing out. Because that's what's going to get you to hold your shape on this guy. That's our beautiful log right there. It's ready to go into the fridge now for a couple of hours, and then we'll finish this off right after dinner. Whew, I've been a disaster lately, but it's okay. We're gonna make it work. And I promise no one's gonna know, except for you guys, because you did it with me, but nobody's gonna know that those walnuts weren't in there to begin with. And that I had to unroll it and throw it back in there and then roll it back up again. Nobody's gonna know when they have the finished product. The point is that you remember that you made that mistake and that you can correct it. So thanks for joining me. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe, and we'll be back in a couple of hours and show off that finished product. Okay guys, so our pumpkin roll has been sitting in the fridge for a couple of hours. It's nice and cold, it's firm, but it's not like hard, if that makes any sense. It's just put together. So what we're gonna do is this. Let me show you. So we're gonna take a pretty platter that we like. Something, it doesn't have to be Christmassy, but we're in that season. Thanksgiving has passed. I already ruined it. It's time to fix it. And all we're gonna do is carefully unwrap it. You see how that seam has held together really well. And we're gonna very, very carefully grab it and set her down. Now, if you wanted to, you can trim off the edge pieces. I don't mind them. I call those the chef pieces. They don't have to be perfect. They just have to taste good. And then using a wire strainer like this, something small or a fine strainer, we're gonna take a couple spoonfuls of powdered sugar. This is how we're gonna finish this off. It's gonna look like it snowed on it. Set a little bit on there, and then we're just gonna dust it over the top. It's beautiful. See, and that looks like a heavenly snowfall. It's just right, just perfect. That's a beautiful dessert. Now, if you wanted to trim off the edges, like I said, which we're gonna do now so I can taste it and make sure that I'm not poisoning anybody. Let's grab a plate. I'm just gonna take a little slice off the edge here. And you see, you end up with this absolutely beautiful little spiral inside of delicious richness. And it's perfect. And then let's cover up our little cut there, so nobody is the wiser with the powdered sugar. And she's beautiful. Now let's give it a taste test just to be sure. We have to make sure it tastes good before we give it to anybody. And we can't do like I did with that pumpkin pie. Oh, you guys, that's delicious. You know, the orange actually comes through a lot more than I expected it to. And it's just right. It brightens it up just perfectly. Honestly, I think this is going to be my new go-to for Thanksgiving from now on. Even though it's post-Thanksgiving, it's still extremely delicious. And it's a great way to use up that pumpkin. So, thank you guys for joining and spending the day with me. I really do appreciate it. Again, don't forget to give me that thumbs up, subscribe, and ring that little bell. And you'll find out every time I put up a new video. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate you being around.